Hello everybody, welcome back to the workshop. So in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make a simple but very decorative cut out flower wall hook. So let me zoom this up just a little bit. Hopefully I can get you guys in a little closer, you can see a little better. Hopefully that's in focus and all that good stuff. But we are going to be basically cutting out this design from a piece of 1/4 inch thick or 6 millimeter thick by 2 inches wide or 50 millimeter wide mild steel. Now this is just some cold rolled mild steel that I'm working with. It could be hot rolled, either or, but this is just what I happen to have. So to give you a real quick explanation here, I've already got most of this laid out to take and save time on having to show you how to draw it in and then chisel it out. I'm just going to go ahead and start chiseling this out. But I wanted to point out a few things about it. So, if you notice for the bloom of this flower, I have left a 2 inch by 2 inch or 50 mil by 50 mil square for the actual flower petals themselves. And you can take a screenshot of this if you need to, but this is the layout or the lines that you'll want to take and be using for this. There's not any rocket science here. Basically, you need to pick a central point, and then you need to cut within an 1/8 of an inch of that center point 45-degree lines out of the center. And you do that on 3 sides, and then this side here you'll cut what will look like a 1/2 inch flat or a 12.5 mil flat. You will cut in that way and then add your 4th diagonals, your bevels that come in underneath the stem. So hopefully that becomes real apparent. This is just chisel work. This is just chisel work. Once you get it to this stage where you've done split off your leaflets here, once you get it to that stage, you want to stop with this and you want to go ahead and forge down the body. We're going to forge down the body and turn this part into a hook. So we're going to stop at this stage before we cut everything out, and this becomes weak by just comparison, have less mass. And we're going to flip it around and we're going to actually forge out this body now. So that's what we'll do. We'll get this good and hot and do that. I was trying to think of a way of making this video short, and that's why I didn't do all the layout and all the little cut lines and stuff. This would have been an hour-long video. It didn't take that long for me to do it. It would take me about that long to explain it. It only took about 30 minutes or so. If you're trying to do this as a business, you can sell these hooks here for right around the $75 to $100 range, depending on how decorative that you make the hook itself. This is a great coat hook or a backpack hook or things like that, and it's a great way of making some money with hooks and things. So, we'll get this good and hot, and I'll be right back with you when we start forging over the horn. Okay, we're going to set this on the wide portion of the horn, and we're going to come down about 2 inches or 50 mil, and we're going to start forging in a waist. We want to take the sharp, we're going to take all that pucker out of it, and we'll just continue to forge it here. Alternatively, you can chisel out some of the material beforehand. The material, that's up to you. I find it's just as easy and time cost effective to just go ahead and forge out, go ahead and forge down the body or the waist there. The reason why you want to pick a point on the apex of the horn 2 inches or 50 mil down from the base here, from about the base of where your leaves will be, and so this way you get this nice flow in here. You want this to be nice and flowing when you bend these out, these little petals out, leaves out for the flower. Also, again, I'll reiterate this. You do not want to completely chisel this out. We will get to the chiseling of this later, knock out all those pieces. You don't want to completely cut through all these pieces just yet until you have that waist drawn out. Again, you'll be working with less than a 1/4 inch thick stem there, or 6 mil thick stem, and you just don't want to be putting all that working back and forth on that. Again, keep all your puckering taken care of on the flat of the anvil, or draw it out on the horn. You want to keep this a clean forging. As clean of a forging as you can. Okay, so here we are so far. If you can see here, I've reduced this down to about 1 1/4 inches in width. That's what we're going to want. Or about 32 mil, if you will. I think that's about right. Yeah, it's 1 1/4 inches in width. You can go down as far as 1 inch or 25 mil at the thinnest here, and you'll be just fine. You want to leave a little thickness in here. Leave this fairly substantial because you want to punch or drill holes in here. And I highly recommend, so this way you can do the hooks. At this stage, you can punch this after you get this drawn out the rest of the way. You can punch this material and it lends itself pretty well. It looks pretty good as well. And it's just as quick as drilling. So do whatever you like there. Now this brings me to the point of the flower. I'm going to go ahead and talk about that for just a second. For those of you that like to just skip ahead and get to the good stuff, go ahead and skip now. But the purpose of the reason why I'm doing a cut flower like this, is to showcase that you don't necessarily need very fancy tools. So far all I've used is a chisel, a cut-off plate, and a bar stock with a punch. So this is just hammer and anvil time, and you can create a pretty substantially good-looking piece and hook that's worth, $100 or more for your store that, can then again feed your family, feed the addiction of, blacksmithing more things. And this is not with a power hammer or press or again, a bunch of fancy equipment and tooling. This is a blacksmith's work. So let's get this hot. I'm going to finish drawing the rest of this off. I won't make you guys watch all that. In fact, I'll probably just go over the power hammer and draw the rest of this length out to an appropriate length. But you want it to be roughly around 1 1/4 inches thick. Okay, so I just noticed in that last clip, I think I said the most oxymoronic thing I could possibly say in my whole career here on YouTube. I told you that you didn't need any professional power equipment or anything like that to do a simple hook like this, and you can end up making some good money. And then right after that statement, if you noticed, I basically said off camera I was going to go use my power hammer to draw out the material to save some time. So let me be very clear. I was using the power hammer to speed up the process of filming. I only have so much time in a day to make these videos, so therefore I use power equipment, sometimes off camera. Is it needed? No, it is not. I just wanted full disclosure there. So I did use the power hammer for a moment to take this thing down, remove some of the material just real quick out of the way, but you can obviously still do this to great effect at the anvil, as I hope you can see. this material at the thinnest point, you're going to want that to be about 1 inch or 25 mil thick of material. And you want it to slowly progress into a flare out on this end. That's going to help us on the other end of the hook. We're going to create a little fishtail hook on this thing. So now at this point, we're going to heat this back up and cut this material off, the excess material. We'll save that for a decorative base plate or something later on, or it might just get scrapped. And then we're going to go ahead and spread out the fishtail here. Got this good and hot. Cut that off. Remove your hardy tool from the anvil. And if you have enough heat in it, you can go ahead and dress that up a little bit, or you can spread it out. Quick tip while working on this. If you get to your final stages of heat and you're trying to clean up the surface or the face of the whatever you're working on, flip it upside down and do all your planishing blows from the back side of the piece, and that will allow your anvil to do the work of sorting out the front divots and planishing them out really nice and soft like. So now that we have that, now we can go ahead and take and spread out that fishtail end just a little bit, and then go ahead and knock off some of the sharp corners before we punch our holes. Hello everyone, I hope you're enjoying this video. So I want to take a real quick moment to tell you about our website, blacksmithpdfs.com. If you'd like to take and support videos like this and future videos and be able to become a friend of the channel and really help us continue to produce free and educational content, a great way for you to do that is to go over to our website, blacksmithpdfs.com, and consider purchasing either a power hammer plan, a power hammer plan bundle, or some of the other various tooling plans that we have to help you as a blacksmith on your journey. There is also a lot of great ebooks, and there's going to be a lot more around business and the business side of blacksmithing, helpful ebooks and e-courses that you'll be able to take over there on that website. So make sure that you check back in often, as we will constantly be adding and updating that site with more and more things. Right now we are keeping the Power Hammer Plan Bundle at a locked-in figure, so this way that every time we add something to the site, it just sweetens the pot even more. So if you haven't been over in a while, please go check it out over at blacksmithpdfs.com. The link for that will be in the description. Now let's get back to the video. So now that we have the holes punched, we had the fantail fanned, we're flipping it around before we bend the hook, and we are going to finish chiseling out our flower. You want to take a nice heat on this. You want to set up a cutting plate, so this way you can cut off easily. You may want to turn down your curing foams. So you just want to keep cutting these until they get all the way cut out. So since how loud this video is probably going to become, I'm going to do this with the sound muted and just continue to cut these out. But that's basically how you do it. You just remove a little bit at a time. Just keep going until you get there. Now, again, I didn't show how to draw this out. Mainly, you can make this any shape you want. This is just a really handy way of doing it. You come halfway in between things and just cut out 45-degree pie marks is the easiest way to explain to make that flower. And we're going to go ahead, and then these, again, you just cut these in and put a punch hole at the end of each one of the roots, so this way it doesn't crack out on you or decide to split. And that's really all there is to it. You're just cutting out whatever design you want on this end. So make daisies, roses, whatever you want. This is just a simple flower shape. So I will go ahead and go to hammering on this in the next clip, and we'll get right back with you. Okay everyone, so here we are. Now at this stage, you're going to want to take and go through and rasp all these ragged areas, or take it with a file after this is cooled down some, and you're going to want to clean up any of these little sharp spots out of this. Now, you can leave this exactly as it sits right here and offer this as a basic option, or you can get a lot more decorative with it. I recommend going the extra mile and going decorative with it. You can charge a little more for it, and also it adds a little more value to someone's home and hanging on their wall. It doesn't look just like a flat cutout piece. So, next step, I'll go ahead and clean all this up off camera, just to clean all that up with a file. You don't need to watch that. And then we will come back and we will go ahead and texture out these petals, start spreading those, and then doing what we're going to do with this. Okay, now we're switching to a much smaller little cross beam, and we're just going to take and give this thing some texture and try to spread these petals out as we go. Stay out of the center of the flower, as this will make it look a lot more natural, and try to work to both sides of center and spread that petal evenly. Again, that's with a much smaller cross peen, a little lightweight one. You don't need a lot of force right now at this point. You just need to take and add some texture and to give that a little bit more form. Okay, so you just want to keep hammering these out until you get them all done, all 4 of them. Again, hammer as evenly as you can. Get this flour to spread nice and even, this petal. At this point, you're really going to start giving this thing some life. Okay, so now that's done. Now you may want to take and give these petals some shape. So in the next step, I'll go ahead and heat this back up. I happen to have a swage block that I have forged, so I'm going to use it. If you want to know how to forge your own, I did a video on that. I'll put a link over here, and I'll link that up in the description. And you can use that as an example on to take and form these petals. So I'm going to face it straight down in the swage block and use a ball peen to give them just a little bit of pop. Okay, got them good and hot. We're going to find an appropriate swage to give these a little bit of pop. You don't want to take and hammer them all the way down into the swage. You don't want to flatten out your texture on the front. Okay, so we don't want to hammer those all the way down, but you want to hammer them down just enough that you can get a curve out of them. Hopefully you guys can see that there. That's going to play into the fact of making this look like a flower later on down the process, once it's all good and cleaned up. So as you can see, there you go. There's the difference between the flats and the curves. So now I've got to get in here and try to get some curve into these other ones, and then recess the center in this bigger block. Oh, wrong way. Ah! Get it the wrong way, just hammer it the other way. Always be careful of that. Learn from my mistakes. Again, we're not trying to hammer it and beat it to oblivion into the bottom of the block. We just want to hammer it ever so slightly to give it some form. So there we have it. Now you guys can see how that gives it a lot more detail. And that's what we're wanting. Even though this is a flat item, we want to give it some form and make it really pop off the wall at you. So y'all can see that just fine. So now that we've got that done, set our block down, we are going to texture out our petals and drive those away a little bit. And for that, we will give this a bit of a conveniency bend out of the way when we're ready to drive these out over the horn. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and aim for just the edge of this leaf and give it some ripples on the outside. We're just trying to provide a little texture here. We're not really trying to form this or anything, but by expanding that outside, we get a little more crook out of the deal. You want to watch your stem that you don't hit it. You want to focus all your blows on that little leaf. Until you get something that looks like that. So now we'll go ahead and give this, in the next heat, we'll give this a little courtesy bend this way. So this way we can drive out these leaves, leaves here a little more. Alright, we're going to give this a courtesy bend just out of the way. And then we're going to use the horn to support our bending, the bottom of our bend, as we bend these more exaggerantly out of the way. And we want to keep these flat to the anvil. You might have to work some different angles to make sure you do that. They'll want to twist on you. You want to keep them somewhat flat to the anvil when you do this. Again, we're just trying to get those to go out. More. I think that looks about right. I'm just going to go ahead and bump that back down. That also provides a little extra curve in the stem to provide that offset that it needs. Again, you're not trying to get this to sit perfectly against the wall. You want it to have some form and some dimension to it. And now at this stage we can give it a good brushing. So you want to leave this to cool, the ends that you've been working on. You want them to cool down appropriately so before you move on to bending the hook. Because if you go to bending the hook right now at this stage, what you're going to end up finding is you're going to end up bending up the flower that you just made, and that's just not very good. Not very good for anything, so we don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and leave this to stay nice and cool. We'll let it set off the side of the fire, and then we'll flip it around and we'll do the final part, which is the hook. So I've kept my end that I'm going to be holding cool to the touch in the hand by leaving a wet rag on it. And we're going to roll this fishtail away from us first and foremost. Make sure it stays in line with everything. We'll go ahead and roll it away. And then we're going to go ahead and make sure that we hammer on it to make it more like a fishtail scroll. At the end, kind of start knocking in some of the corners a bit. Give it a little arch to the dimensions. And that looks pretty good there. Again, just want to start that roll in that direction. And then we're going to bend the hook the opposite way. Now this is great as a jacket hook or a book bag hook or anything like that. It really helps to have that really nice smooth bulbous end on the end for that fishtail. So now that we've got that like that, now we'll go ahead and heat it back up and we'll bend the hook around the anvil, keeping the fishtail cold. Cooling off the end of the fishtail, just so this way we don't deform that. And now we're going to go ahead and make our long lazy bend in the hook here up close to the flower portion. Again, you can make this hook however you like. You can tighten it up in areas, whatever looks appropriate for you and your particular forging style. Take advantage. I do, however, suggest that you make sure that the fishtail comes out below your bottom screw hole, that you can mount this thing to the wall. So I do suggest that you do that. Just as a method of curiosity there, you may find out that if you don't do that, you end up having trouble hanging it on your wall, on a wall space somewhere. And we don't want that, especially if you're selling it to a customer. You know, you want to think about your customer's needs in that respect. This sitting flat, that's looking good. Nothing ornery about it. Everything's straightened up. There we go. Give this a good brushing. Just to clean it up here. Now you can choose to do whatever finish you like. I suggest doing some brass highlighting and things on the areas that you'd like to show off a little of that hammer texture so it kind of stands out along the room. And then you can either do a nice boiled linseed oil finish, or my favorite would be doing something more like a Rust-Oleum or a beeswax finish as well. You can do that as well. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of it in the comment section down below. As always, God bless you all, and we will catch you on the next one.